born in a football household, specifically the NFL. My parents were huge fans of the team currently known as the Washington Commanders. And they passed that down to my sister and me. But really, even if Washington wasn't playing, if there was an NFL game on, our TV was on and we were watching it. And that was really mainly the only sport we watched in our house. We would watch the Olympics whenever that was on. But other than that, it was all NFL. And as I got older and I went to college, I started obviously watching more sports, more college football, college basketball, some baseball in there, and the odd World Cup game. And I really liked all of those sports, but nothing really took over NFL football as my favorite sport. But after I graduated from college in the mid-90s, I moved back home. And just a few months later, my dad decided to take early retirement and my parents moved to Florida. I'm sure it was just a coincidence. And my sister got married and moved to California. So I was living on my own for the first time. And 2 years into this situation, things were not going well. I had a full-time job that had nothing to do with my college major. I was working in retail, so that's code for working a lot, not making much money. And my schedule was fluctuated so much that it was really hard for me to have friends that weren't my coworkers. And I was in a very unhealthy relationship with a guy who was my coworker. And so it was just a bad situation, and I just needed to get out of it. So I started looking for another job, and just nothing was clicking, nothing was working. So I started kind of thinking I needed to really make a clean break and just have a fresh start. So one day in December 1998, I woke up and I was just fed up. So I called my friend from college, and when she answered the phone, without preamble, I said, "Do you want to move somewhere with me?" And she was like, "Yeah." Because that's when you know you have a good friend, right? But she was similarly unhappy in her life, and so we pulled out our atlases, because it was 1998. And if Google Maps existed, we didn't know. And so we started looking at where we wanted to move. And I wanted to avoid the East Coast. She wanted to avoid the South. So we looked at Seattle, but that was really rainy and really expensive. So we looked at California, and that was sunny, but also really expensive. So then we looked at Denver, and that one held some promise, but then we looked at the current temperature, and it was way too cold, unacceptably cold. And so then we finally decided, we settled on Dallas, Texas. And Dallas was great because it was far enough away that it really felt like we were gonna get a fresh start, but it wasn't all the way across the country. And it was a big city, there was a lot to do, it was affordable, and it was warm. So I borrowed some money, got a U-Haul, packed my meager belongings, swung down south, picked up my friend, and we headed to Dallas. And when we got to Dallas, we both found jobs really quickly, we found an apartment to live in, and we really kind of settled down to start this new adventure. And in theory, when you talk about starting over and fresh starts and rebooting your life, it sounds really great. But in practice, you're just in a strange city where you don't know anyone and you're broke because you just moved halfway across the country. And so those first couple months were pretty rough. But we would eat ramen all week, and then we would pool our money together and we would go out once a week. That was like our treat. And so we started going to different restaurants in our new neighborhood to see, what we liked. And no matter where we went, the TVs were on and there was a hockey game on, and we were surrounded by Dallas Stars fans. And we realized two things really quickly. One is that they play a lot of games in pro hockey. And two, the Dallas Stars were really good. And just like DC, Dallas is a really great sports town. The Cowboys are, of course, the favorite. But the Stars and the Texas Rangers and the Dallas Mavericks all have really good fan bases. And this was the late 90s, so the Cowboys were a few years past their last Super Bowl run. And the Rangers were pretty good, The Mavericks were terrible, but the Stars were amazing. They had moved to the Dallas area in 1994, and every single year they got better. The previous year, they had gone to the Western Conference Finals, and they had lost, but they got 2 really good players in the offseason. And so when they started the 98-99 season, they were the favorites for the Stanley Cup, and they started off strong, and they never looked back. And everywhere we went, whether it was the grocery store or the gas station, we saw people in Dallas Stars shirts and hats and jerseys and car flags, and you name it, they had it. The city was obsessed with the Stars. And so we would start going, we went to several different restaurants, and we kind of found one that we really liked. And we really liked it because it was close to our apartment, it wasn't too expensive, and it had a really good group of regulars who were Stars fans. And they went to this place basically almost every Stars game. And they quickly took us under their wing, and they explained the rules of hockey, and they told us the whole history from 1994 on. And they really wanted to convert us to be Dallas Stars fans. And that wasn't hard because we really liked it. And so we didn't have much money, so we would get a Diet Coke, and we would nurse our Diet Cokes, and we would have share an appetizer. But pretty soon our new friends were inviting us over to their table and sharing all of their appetizers and not accepting our money. And it was just a breath of fresh air. Because this is what I love about sports, is that it can take a room of strangers and make you best friends, even if it's just for 2 hours, because you have a shared goal. And so I may not know your name, but I'm going to high-five you when our goalie makes an amazing stop. And, I don't know the history of your entire life, but I'm going to hug you when our team wins or honestly loses, And so that's what was so great, because suddenly, just like that, we had friends, and we had a place to go, and we had people who missed us when we didn't show up. And so fast forward a few months later, and when the Dallas Stars won the Stanley Cup in the wee hours of June 20th, 1999, my friend and I were jumping around like we were maniacs, like we had just won the lottery. And it was exactly what we needed. It was an amazing thing because we in the off season, we met more Dallas Stars fans. We met a local DJ who was a big Stars fan who had season tickets, and he also knew a lot of the players, so we got to meet a bunch of the players. We met other season ticket holders, and then when the new season started, we started going to games. And when you know a bunch of season ticket holders, especially when they play 41 home games, there's a lot of times where they can't use their tickets. So they would sell them to us really cheap, or half the time they would just give them to us. And so we got to see all these great games. Our DJ friend would hook us up with concert tickets too. And so, we suddenly had a social life. And I get tired thinking about that now because I'm 48. But when you're 24, you're like, counting crows on a Wednesday night? Absolutely, let's go. And it was just great. And we started to finally feel at home in our new city. And so, obviously I don't live in Dallas anymore. And 24 years later, though, it's still my favorite team. And people get a little bit confused because they know I'm a Dallas Stars fan, but I'm not a Dallas Cowboys fan at all. And they know I'm a, that's right. And they know that I'm a Washington Commanders fan, but I'm not really a Capitals fan, although I am a Capitals fan. Don't worry. I root for the Capitals as long as they're not playing the Stars. But really what it boils down to is I'm a lifetime Dallas Stars fan because they helped me start to rebuild my life in a new city and help me put down roots in this rebooted life that I desperately needed. So, go Stars.